let's start with what I call the Blue Collar Jobs Act, because that's what it was when it passed. And the Blue Collar Jobs Act, at the time it passed, was agreed to by the governor. And let's define what those are in the list of things you're now backtracking on. The Blue Collar Jobs Act included the reversal of the franchise tax, because that hits small businesses pretty hard. These do not hit. In fact, that was one of the things designed to help small businesses, the very people who are struggling to stay afloat right now coming out of COVID. The tax deduction for new construction jobs, that was designed specifically to help our construction workers, the men and women I represent, the people I drove by on the highway working out there in 40 degrees this morning, get to work. And the manufacturing and machinery equipment exemption. Those were all part of a bill that was agreed to by the governor. In fact, at the time, Governor Pritzker said, and I quote, "This will create hundreds of thousands of jobs throughout our state," end quote. And he went on to say, "It will reinvigorate our economy." That's a direct quote. So here we are at the end of COVID, with Illinois as one of the top states in the nation for unemployment, people desperately needing work. Why on earth did the administration, did Governor Pritzker decide he's now going to back down from, go back on his word, his pledge, when he signed the Blue Collar Jobs Act? And what should I tell the men and women in my district that have gotten jobs from this as to why the administration is now proposing to walk away from it, walk away from them and their families?
So, I mean, look, Senator, the state's fiscal situation continues to face a lot of challenges. I think we were in a better situation in 2019 than we are coming through a pandemic. There are some tough decisions here, and reevaluating things that were new changes are just part of the discussion for the spring. The corporate franchise tax has been a tax since 1934. And, it's been part of the business operations in the state for almost 100 years. And so, reevaluating whether or not we can afford that repeal is just part of what we have to decide this spring.
So on the note of what you said about not having enough funds available, when this was passed and the budget last year, we're up $3 billion in the revenue projections in 20. And your 21 budget came out before the federal stimulus 3 was passed, and you got $7.5 billion in discretionary funds out of the federal stimulus budget. So right there, we're $10 billion to the good from where we thought we were going to be last year. And now you're back with a proposal for another $1 billion in taxes. How much is enough?
We believe that there needs to be structural changes here. The one-time revenues from the federal government, the $7.5 billion. I mean, that's one-time revenues that cannot be used, really should not be used to address kind of the structural deficit in the state's budget.
But our 20 projections are up $3 billion from where they were projected, and now you want another $1 billion on that.
Senator, let her finish her response. She was still in the middle of responding.
I apologize, Alexis. Please respond.
Yeah. So yes, our revenue estimate is up, but the hole for fiscal year 21 is closed by the borrowing that we did and the additional federal revenues. And so even though things are better than we thought there would be, there is still this underlying hole in the state's budget.
So I guess I go back to, here's another $1 billion. How much is enough?
I don't think there's an answer to that this
Okay.
morning. I mean, I think it depends on what choices we make on what we want to spend the state's tax dollars on.
So I'll go back to a couple of these other items. Oh, go ahead, Director General Harris. I'm sorry.
Well, Senator, thank you. Just on your comment, and talking about the franchise tax, when you're talking about the mom and pops, I'll disagree with you on that. that in terms of it hitting the mom and pops. I mean, the franchise tax, and again, Department of Revenue does not administer the franchise tax. As you know, that's handled by the Secretary of State, but it's based on paid in capital on stock. So a lot of your mom and pops are not going to be impacted by the franchise tax. Granted, some of your small corporations are, and I grant you from my experience, it can be irritating, but the mom and pops are not going to be hit. As far as the MM&E that you mentioned, the exemption on the MM&E, we felt that it was a very generous expansion. I don't know that simply the $56 million that this equates to of allowing for solvents and lubricants is such a significant hit that jobs are going to be lost because of it. Just an observation.
Well, it all adds up, and Illinois is one of the least job creating friendly states in the nation. So it was something that was agreed to by the governor when he signed it and said it would help us reinvigorate our economy and, quote, create hundreds of thousands of jobs. So it must have done something when it was signed to by him. Now, General, I will take exception, and you know I have a great deal of respect for you, sir, especially your service to our country. But I will take exception with you on the issue about the franchise tax, because if you are, most small businesses anymore are limited liability companies, which does have a capital account. And so if you are, the salon owner, hairstylist, barber, you are an LLC for liability protection purposes. You will have a capital account. And so you will pay this. And it's just another irritation. It may be, as you said, an irritation, but you're going to pay it. And these are the very people, restaurants and bars, who are struggling with COVID. They will pay it. And I guarantee you, virtually every restaurant and bar, if they're smart, is incorporated or is either incorporated or an LLC format. They don't want to get sued if they serve a bad hamburger, right? So anyway, let's move on to some of the other items here. Yesterday was Earth Day. The day after Earth Day, we are here talking about getting rid of biodiesel. Illinois is the third largest consumer of biodiesel in the United States of America. Biodiesel puts countless men and women to work every day in this state, not just in the production agriculture sector that relies on the soybeans to make biodiesel, but in the plants, the actual plants that are in this state. There are 5 biodiesel plants that are major employers in communities throughout this state. I would also add, as someone who represents the Decatur-Macon County area, where we have ADM and Tate and Lyle, soybeans are a pretty big part of my world. On the Earth Day part of it, though, biodiesel is enormously good for the environment. Here we are the day after Earth Day. Biodiesel is a clean burning alternative fuel produced from a wide range of different things: renewable fats, oils, greases, etc., glycerin, soy, etc. It can be used in diesel engines. It displaces quite a bit of carbon that would otherwise come from petroleum-based fuel products. So I would ask you, is not just for the men and women that are employed in this industry, but as a matter of environment, as helping the environment, why would we want to replace biodiesel with petroleum-based products in this day and age?
So, a few years ago, we reevaluated the timeline for the previous exemption here, and our proposal is to reevaluate the timeline for the current exemption. I mean, there's different iterations of what this could look like. This is the full value of the exemption, and which is supposed to roll off in a few years. And so, there could be different iterations of what this looks like.